So, good afternoon, everyone. A little bit earlier than the original time. And joining me on stage is the Women in Construction panel. So I will allow each of the panel to introduce themselves, starting with the gentleman first, Noel, and we'll go around to the top so we can let people know who you are, what you do, and why you're here.
Okay, I'm Noel McKee. I'm a business development manager for a small contractor in north of Ireland, and I am privileged to be here as the 2022 winner of the Male Ally Women in Construction Award last year, and still haven't found out who nominated me, but it's been a wonderful year so far and met so many amazing people, so just glad to be here.
Thank you, Noel.
Hi, I'm Helen Chorley. I am the judge, along with Carol, for the business owner category. I'm a property investor, and I'm the only female angel on the Property Elevator TV show, kind of like Dragon's Den for property on Sky TV, and a number of other things in property investment, that arena.
Joanne?
Hello, I'm Joanne De La Porte. I'm Head of Health for Gleeds, UK. My background is construction, from building surveying, project management, through to programme management and strategy, and I'm the judge for the Female Pioneer at the Women in Construction. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Sandi Rhys-Jones. As has been said repeatedly in the previous session, I've been around rather a long time, so I've given up being 45 years old. And adding insult to injury, my eldest son turned 50 last year, which I thought was extremely rude. I've been in the industry a long time. I'm a compulsive builder. I love construction. I love building. I'm in the middle of doing retaining walls in my new house at the moment. I ran my own business for some 40 years, working across the industry, contractors, consultants, government, here and abroad. So I've been an employer. I was struck by one of the comments earlier, and if I can just digress a bit, I think it was one of our role models who said, working as if you don't have children, or working as if people don't think you've got children. And it really reminded me of an incident some years ago in an international conference, and I was helping run it, and we'd had some really tough discussions. And I said, I'm sorry, I need to just make a phone call. I need to check that my kids haven't killed each other and the gas has been turned off. And the chap turned to me and said, goodness, I never would have thought you were a mum. And then I took it as a compliment that he didn't think that I had children. And I think that shows the change that's going on. Anyway, I'm sorry. I did warn you I was going to go off piece. It's been
fine.
a long 2 days.
That's absolutely fine.
I was completely side-swoggled and honoured to get the Lifetime Achievement last year with the Design and Build Awards. A complete shock out of the blue and very special. Thank you. So I'm delighted to support this and delighted to be a judge. Just bring it on. This is great stuff.
Brilliant. Thank you. So I've got a few questions to run past the panel this afternoon. The UK construction industry has traditionally been male-dominated, as we all know, with women only making up a small percentage. However, increasing efforts are being made to attract and retain women in the industry. We all know that there's some great initiatives, but we're still not there yet. And also recognising the diversity and the need for more inclusive and equitable workplace. With this in mind, here are a few questions I want to pose to each and every one of you. Right, so I'm going to go to Joanne on this one. What are the current trends and challenges in attracting and retaining women in the UK construction industry? And are there any particular areas in the industry where women are underrepresented?
Okay, so when I first thought about this last week, I thought I needed to get a bit of a more diverse range. And by that, I mean a scale of females in the industry. So I actually asked my team, who are largely female, their views as well. And the really interesting thing is they all came back with the same answers, whether they were at the more entry level or whether they were the mid-management leading up to more senior. All of them, within their first 2 points, was about how women champion themselves and then how those allies within the industry champion them further. So 2 of them actually used the same expression. We don't know how to celebrate our success because we don't want to alienate ourselves by, maybe it's a female thing, I don't know, but we don't want to look big-headed or that we're overreaching or we're over-pushing. But actually what that's done for many of us, and within the 4 that I asked, we've held ourselves back because we haven't had people around us that have recognised just how good we are or have recognised it but have been happy with us sitting at the level we were. Because you're still delivering for that person, you're still doing the job, you're still doing the extra, but you're not pushing for the pay and promotions in the same way that the male counterpart probably is. So we need to champion ourselves and celebrate our success, but we need those around us to recognise that we're not quite so good at that at times, a lot of us, and to actually take us on that journey with them. And that comes at that leadership level and then spills down. The next point was money, and it links back to the first point, but we seem to generally accept a lower salary. We seem to naturally think we fit within a benchmark because we don't necessarily know what those around us are benchmarking against in terms of their salary. And I know the gender pay gap's a really positive move forwards. I absolutely recognise that. But it's the responsibility of the business to be looking across their staff and seeing whether or not that equilibrium is naturally there. And if it's not, then you need to be creating that very, very quickly or you're not going to retain your team. Because the markets, there's a lot of jobs out there at the moment. A lot of us get contacted very regularly. And quite often, if you're not quite sure where you're going, money can talk. And we need to retain those wonderful people in our businesses, don't we? The other thing was about getting to the board. And it was about that mentoring. And what they were saying was, and I felt exactly the same, we all need somebody to look up to. Whether it's in our business or whether it's in a previous business, there's that person that you aspired to be. And when I look back over 20 odd years, as awful as it sounds, because within the organisations and the businesses I've been in, every single time I've had that person that is in my focus, I want to be you in 3 years, it has been a male ally. I cannot think of a single occasion where there was even a woman in place that I could aspire to be. Now, there are women outside of those environments that, yes, I did aspire to, but within the organisations, there wasn't. So I think we've got to see how to get those women that are more than ready onto those boards so that from bottom up, and that's how you're going to retain your staff. You're going to give them a clear pathway to success and progression.
Absolutely, well said. Helen, same question.
Yeah, I just add to the visibility point that you made there, and it's something Michaela talks about a lot. It's if there isn't, it's just much harder to get on that path if somebody hasn't trodden it before you. We've all done it. So we know from experience, but it's much easier if there is somebody there visible, and then you can kind of piggyback off what they've done. You can learn their mistakes, you can learn their tips. And actually, I've been really lucky. I've had lots of male allies I was banking before I was property and construction, so equally kind of male-dominated world. But I had male allies championing me. And the one thing I would ask, and maybe a little controversial, is that actually when you do get to those positions, I think it's really important to think about the responsibility that you have to those coming up behind you. Because let me tell you, in banking, and I'm glad to say less so in this side of this industry, I did look at the women that were in that position and I thought, I don't want to be like you. They were not great examples of human beings, and they were not great examples of women that would champion other women. So I think we need to remember our responsibility, and it's why we're all here.
Yeah.
Because we know, we feel, we live, we breathe that responsibility of bringing up, kind of the next generation.
Do you think it's to do with confidence?
I think confidence is a huge thing. As you were talking, Joanne, I was thinking about, there's a study, and I can't remember which study it is, so don't ask me, but I'll Google it later. But that women will only apply for a job, a role, when they are 110% confident that they can do it. And, this is a generalization, but men tend to be more like, well, we'll give it a go, and then they succeed. Whereas if the women just took a bit more of that attitude, like, let's just go for it, let's give it a go, then... it's like you say, I think sometimes we hold ourselves back. And I think that is a confidence thing.
Yeah, totally agree. Next question. How can UK construction companies create a more welcoming and inclusive environment for women in the industry? Are there any specific strategies or programs that have shown to be effective in promoting diversity and inclusion? I'll go to you first, Noel, then Sandi.
Okay. Some excellent comments so far, and I think, just going back on the last question, I think that we really need to improve how we reach out to the future generations and attracting everybody into construction, particularly women. And I know we've got this 12-13% in the industry. Whenever we look at trade skills, we've got less than 1% women in construction. Now, I sit in the CITB board as well as a trustee of the CIOB, but the CITB board, as shocking fact, was out of 4,000 students, 4,000 apprenticeships, 38 women.
Shocking.
Now, that's a shock to the system, and I think we've got to educate the educators, we've got to educate the parents, and I think that what Joanne's saying about working maybe in a pincer movement, that we get it right within industry, that it becomes more attractive to the future generations. What else can we do as companies? We need, and it's been said throughout the day, about having better facilities, more inclusive workplaces, and just better working conditions for women. But I think it all stems back to responsibilities on clients, on contractors, to stop this race to the bottom tendering and working to unrealistic deadlines where people, and I've heard young people having to work 60, 70-hour weeks, whether you're male or female. Where is the quality of family life? We should only be working 8 hours, 8 hours social time with our families, with our friends, and 8 hours rest. That has been skewed for so long, and it's got to change. And I think younger people coming in now are looking for a better work-life balance. So clients have to waken up to it. Contractors have to waken up to it and say, there's a level we shouldn't be going below. Other things, I think, within we talk about social value and how we reach out to local communities. I think contractors maybe need to demonstrate, how are we reaching out to the community that we go to 9 to 5 every day of the week? What are you, Mr. Contractor, doing to encourage EDI, reaching out to people from disabled backgrounds, people from ethnic backgrounds, displaced talent, women in construction? How are you engendering your workforce to support one another? Show me tangible evidence. And I know through the CIOB and our EDI charter, we have this coming through, that there'll be measurable outcomes that charter building companies through the CIOB will have to publish how they are approaching ED and I within their companies. So there's a lot happening, but that's just some of the viewpoints I have.
Thank you, Noel. Sandi?
I think we've got lots of examples of things that have worked in the past. I mean, this is so much repeating old history. I mean, I did a road show for kids in a very gritty part of London, and we used to walk them from their school along the river, and we'd say, look up, look at that building. What do you think it is? How do you think they built it? They loved the MI5 building, of course, because it was full of spooks. So you tell a story about it. We got them to the bridge, we had a discussion about how you actually build a bridge. You know, we've lost all the magic in this stuff. I think getting a bridge from one side of a river to another is extraordinary. You know, a lot of the stuff we do, most people wouldn't know how to begin to do it. And it's magical. Then we'd walk them back because it wore them out, because these were 12-year-olds. And then I'd tell them that the bridge was rebuilt in the Second World War by women, because there weren't any men. And here we are again saying we're so desperate because we're 218,000 people short, whatever it is. We're so desperate, we'll employ women and other underrepresented groups. And then when everything's all right again, we don't really care where they go. We can't keep doing this stuff. We've got models. We can tell stories to kids. You then back it up by persuading their parents that it's not a dead lost career. So there's a little model. As far as what companies do, we can all do it. Can we think not corporate for a minute? Because I'm a small business person. There are other small businesses here. We can all do it. When I recruited people in my business, I had all the usual stuff on the matrix, you know, what their degree was, where they'd been, what their experience was, etc., etc. And I had 3 extra columns. And the extra columns was what's different about this person? What else did they do that was interesting? What else did they do that showed they had another life? And then I had another column which was how would they stand up to our most difficult client? Would I be able to send this person in and they'd be able to deal with this challenging and demanding client? And it was really interesting how you reframed how you saw that person in that chair. And it meant we got different people. So I had people working for me who were half Japanese, who were German. I had one woman who did a classics degree, but her first job was working for Total Oil on the environmental side, and she crash learned French in 6 weeks to take the job. And while she was at university, she ran an opera touring company that made a profit. Wow. Boy, did I want her in my company. And I think we can all do that sort of thing to find the different people. But on the, you're quite rightly saying the confidence thing. Women can help other women, but it doesn't have to be a role model or a mentor. Start a dining club. I ran a dining club for colleagues, women colleagues I'd met in the industry, because we realised we never met except in a meeting. So we started going out to supper and talking about each other, to each other, and then we could champion each other because we knew each other as people in the industry.
Yes, absolutely.
That's something you can do. You know, let's stop saying, what do companies do? What can I go away and do that will maybe make a difference where I work and will bring different people in?
Great idea. No, thank you for that. Next question. What role can education and training play in attracting and retaining women in the UK construction industry? Are there any specific initiatives or partnerships that can be used to encourage more women to pursue careers in the construction? I'll go to Helen on this one and then yourself, Sandi.
Sure. Somebody else is probably better placed to talk about the specific training. Yeah. But actually, it very much feeds into what Sandi was saying in terms of confidence and of network. So, of course, we all need, skilling up. Everybody does, no matter what gender you are. But what that additionally gives you is the confidence then that you can do it. And then actually, I'm always on some training course of something or other, very rarely work-related. And I learn as much from the people around me as I do from the content that's being presented to me. Yeah. And when you start having those conversations, why are you here? You know, what are you learning? Is this to do with your work? Is this, and you start having those broader conversations, exactly, you start making those bonds, those connections that go on way beyond that 6-week course, that 12-month course, whatever it is. So the power of that network and just having other people to tap into who have been on that same journey, that same progression as you. Maybe they're a little bit ahead of you, so can guide you along that. One of the things I didn't say in my intro is that I helped co-found the Property Sisters community for women. And it's for exactly that reason that I work with so many SME developers that are women on their own, and they're struggling with all these issues, these challenges, and it can be very lonely. So actually, they just want to know that other people are facing the same challenges. Yes, then you can get recommendations on solicitors, contractors, plumbers, like whatever. But also just to be able to put your hand up and say, do you know what? I'm having a bad week. Like, anybody got any advice on whatever it is? So I think that's the power of training. It's the confidence, and it's the network as well.
Absolutely. And Sandi, same question to you.
Yes, keep learning. Find opportunities. I'll try and make it a short anecdote. I did a master's in construction law at King's College because I was involved in contract drafting and I thought I ought to know a bit more about it. The first day I was there, and this was great, this was big style imposter syndrome, I can tell you. I mean, I nearly left because it's 40 people, 20 lawyers, 20 non-lawyers. I was the odd one. Oh, 2 women. So 40 people, 38 men, 2 women and me. And I sat there thinking, I don't know why I'm here. This was all a big mistake. And the chap next to me was already a barrister and a civil engineer. And he said at lunchtime, they don't seem to have organised any lunch for us. May I invite you to Middle Temple for lunch?
Oh.
So I thought, yeah, fine. So I trotted off to lunch and we had a very enjoyable lunch. We got back and I thought, maybe I can crack this. And I did the course. I finished the course, got it with distinction, because you don't big yourself up, do you? So I'll say it now. And the day after I'd had lunch with this chap on this real serious CPD, and it was quite expensive for me as a business owner to embark on this course, I had a call from somebody who said, you don't know who I am, but I've been told you're the person I need. And he became a client of mine, generating significant amounts of income for 25 years.
Wow.
So if you've got any doubts about the value of CPD or training, you've got the network, and I got a client out of it. You don't know who you're going to meet.
Exactly.
And you don't know who's supporting you. I was promoted to go on that course, and I did it with the help of people and it led to that. So learning, continual learning, is really valuable. It's more than a certificate. It opens opportunities to you.
Absolutely.
I do think they need to consider as well that front end, though. There's new learning that needs to be put into the university systems and be through schools. And we had a chat before we came up on the stage, because I'm a real I love data. I love data in the built environment. You can make great decisions if you've got the data that sits behind how a building is operated, whether it's still in our IBA stage 4 or whether it's been a building that's been running for 25 years. And looking round this hall today, I was smiling to myself, because I don't know the exact percentage, but I think about 70% of the stands in this hall today are about digital and data and the future of construction. And I think if you get that into schools and you re-educate on what a career in the construction industry can look like and what difference you can make, I think that those female numbers will very much rise. I genuinely think that, because they're very attractive areas to work in. They're on the cusp of being something brilliant. These are going to be the change makers to how we use and live in buildings and how they operate. And I think that's the message that needs to be in schools. Yeah. It's not just about, I love the muddy boots, by the way. I love being out on site, but not everybody does.
No, exactly.
But there is so much, and I need an army of data and digital people to come on that journey with me.
Absolutely.
So the more that can come through, the better.
Exactly.
Can I add to that? I think you're absolutely right. And what was interesting in this road show, where I took the kids to the bridge, and then we had presentations from a cross-section of people in the industry. And one young lad said to me, oh, can I do this without having to go to university? And I said, yeah, you can do an apprenticeship, you can do it this way. And it was a light bulb moment.
Yeah.
You know, there are so many ways into this industry,
Yeah.
and you're right about digital. The other thing is sustainability. They're
Yeah.
passionate about it, so climate change stuff. And you can come in all these different routes and work your way up and follow your way through. So we've got to make, that's true inclusion.
Exactly. But we need to get that messaging out,
Yeah,
because there's this
absolutely.
perception that it's either there's not really good roles, it's muddy boots, or actually you need to go to Eton University, have big debts behind you to get
Yeah.
to the key roles. So we need to be able to share that there are some other roles to get into construction. Next question. How can UK construction companies measure success of their efforts to attract and retain the women they actually get into the industry? What metrics, indicators should be used to assess progress and identify areas for improvement? Noel, I'm going to come to you first and then Helen.
Okay, I put my answer to the side here and go off piste, as Sandi has trained me to do. And I think there are so many metrics. We can talk about recruitment, retention, all that stuff. I think me as a person, and I'm going to take it to that level, that I think that we as an industry need to learn to respect each other. And I think that we can measure all we like and have KPIs for this and that, but I think ultimately men have to realize their responsibilities, and women, and that there should be a mutual respect for each other. That women should never be considered second class. They should never be just tolerated. They should be celebrated. I think that we need to embrace diversity in its fullest meaning, and how we reach out to people who are and suffer with disabilities from different various ability backgrounds. And I have personal knowledge of that, of seeing how my son was treated 10 years ago and people turning away from him. But ultimately, I think if we as industry leaders within our industries that we work in can engender respect between the teams we work in, and let's face it, we all work within bid teams, construction teams, whatever. And if we can lead, I've said it to Gail, if we can lead the people by walking behind them, and that's something I heard in 1980, now you know how old I am, that at my final year at university, if you want to lead the people, walk behind them by encouraging, embracing them, taking them aside. It doesn't have to be any big thing. I call it across the coffee table evangelism and training and support, that some young person, female or male, can come in and feel valued right from the outset. Okay, there's going to be times that you maybe have to challenge them a bit, but challenge them in such a way that they don't feel belittled and going home feeling absolutely sick to their back teeth. Sorry, I've taken it off scheme, but that I just feel that as an industry we need to learn respect.
Definitely. Definitely. Helen?
Yeah, I completely agree on the respect kind of point. I think that touches on and it brings in so many of the points that we've already kind of spoken about, which are all key to this as much as the specific question. It brings in that respect, and when you're treated differently, when you're treated, like I remember, God, again, showing how old I am, but going back to school, like when we got to a certain age at school and the teachers treated us differently. Well, that respect, you stepped up to that. You lived up to that, and you had a confidence that, okay, we're going into adulthood now, and you lived up to that expectation that had been put on you, and that's a form of respect. And I think that applies as much here as in my personal example.
Brilliant. And final question. Joanne, you were involved in sponsoring our Women in Construction Awards last year. Helen, you sold more tickets than anyone and supported the whole way through. Sandi, you won our Lifetime Achievements Award, and Noel, you won our Male Ally. I would really love to hear from you all on why you think the awards like this is an important thing to have, and what you got from the event and events like this today. So, Noel, I'll start with you first.
Yeah, honestly, Michaela and her team are absolutely excellent. What I got out of this award has been life-changing. I'll be quite honest with you, because I've met people, like people on the stage here. It's maybe given me a little bit of a voice to be able to share some of my experiences and been able to speak at various events throughout the year across the world. And but I feel truly humbled, and I wish it had happened 20 years earlier, because it's such a big subject, and it's something I'm more passionate about now than I was over a year ago. These awards are so important to celebrate women who are doing amazing things within construction, and the people behind them and the companies behind them that are celebrating their achievements with them. So it's superb.
And I will say, no, I don't know where your voice has been, but you should be speaking all the time with that lovely accent that you have. You've just got such a great voice.
My wife just wishes I would keep quiet most of the time.
And Helen?
I think it goes back to, again, stuff we've been talking about, and Joanne, actually, what you started with. We're not great at celebrating our successes and our wins and putting ourselves forward. Like, I'm actually a judge for 4 industry awards. This is the only women's one, so it's my favourite. But I'm constantly trying to get people to apply, And sometimes, actually, this form doesn't take too long, so please do apply. Some of them take, they need time and dedication, like putting into it. But it's that, again, it's confidence. People are, well, what if I don't get anything? You get as much from the process of applying as you do if you win or not. And it's about, I actually almost think, when you're thinking about these things, it's as much about that visibility, and that you have a responsibility. If you want change in this industry, you have a responsibility to step up and make yourself visible. And yes, it's uncomfortable. We've all had to kind of overcome that. But it's a process, and you get there, and it's honouring that responsibility that you have to implement that change. And this is one of the key steps of how we make these changes, by showing people the opportunities. We talked about it. So it's not just kind of muddy boots and exactly, Oxbridge and degrees. There's all these different opportunities. Look at all these different people, how they've made a success, how they've got to where they are. And look, and you can be like any one of them.
Absolutely.
So it's so important, because I think this is how we make a change.
Thank you, Helen. Thank you very much. Joe, you sponsored the award as well.
Yeah, so I think the best way of explaining why I was so passionate about supporting this, and Michaela will vouch for that, because there must have been so many wherever she's gone.
She's done a runner.
Where's she gone? There were a few conversations, obviously, because this was the first event. This was a newbie. And obviously, Gleeds support a number of women in construction, women in property and other events. And they're saying, well, what's this one? What's different in this one? And the way I explained it to them, and which they very much agreed in, once we'd gone through it, was this is about the whole cycle of construction. This is the one Women in Construction event that looks at the women that are on the tools and the trades. It looks at the women who are coming through as the graduates, just sort of 3, 4, 5 years coming through. It's got the pioneer woman. It's got that woman that was the trailblazer, those of us that didn't have many people to look up to at the time were aware of. So we didn't have LinkedIn like we've got it now.
Exactly.
We didn't have Google. So you would follow the trade magazines where they'd mention that person. And I mean, for me, it was Zaha Hadid was the one, people like her that I just thought, oh, there is someone out there. And I felt that this awards was the whole holistic overview. It was all those little jigsaw pieces that make construction and how women make such a valuable contribution to that, and hopefully will continue to make more and more. So I just felt this was the one that
The full package.
It's the full package, and I will say that to anybody that asks, Joe, why Michaela's event? Why? And I'm like, because it does the lot.
That's right. Thank you, Joanne. And Sandi,
Well, I
Lifetime
think
Achievers Award.
yeah, you've said it. You've said it all. Actually, I think it's recognition. It's being visible and being audible. But I think that it's not just for the women. I think the industry is absolute rubbish at telling its own stories. I think the industry is absolute rubbish at seeing the positive. It's partly the nature of the job. You're struggling to finish a big project. It's all drive. You've maybe had an argument over the cost. I mean, it's a tough industry. It's tough. And you get to the end of the project, and unless you're a very, very together company where you all sit down and have a debrief and take all the lessons from it and do a review and what did we learn and boy, didn't we do well, you don't, do you? You're deep into the next one. And you keep going forward and you don't look back. And we don't look back as individuals. We just keep trucking, especially if you've got 3 kids and the boiler's playing up and you didn't get the promotion, all that rubbish. So it's a wonderful opportunity to look back and think, oh, that wasn't bad, was it? And that we did a really good job on that job. If we, through these awards, can get the industry to celebrate more of what it does, then that will help with this flipping image problem we go banging on about. Nobody wants to work in the industry because. And also, the things we need to change to get more women are the change for people. I don't want young lads to have a rough time on site. I don't want other people. So, go away. Doesn't like my talk. I think we stop making it, let's be really nice to women and clean up the toilets. It's let's make this a better place to work. Yeah. We make it a better place to work and we do really good stuff and we're going to talk about it and celebrate it and then we're going to move forward. So the awards can do that as well. They'll tell the stories of the industry as well as the people.
Fantastic. Thank you all very much for your answers. And just to wrap up this afternoon, what sector can you say that on this stage is over 100 combined years of construction experience? So we do know what we're
have a gin
talking
and
about.
tonic?
Oh, yes, we both do.
I'm coming back.
But on a serious note, I'd just like to thank again the panellists and everyone throughout the day that's been here supporting Designer Build and all the sponsors. But I want to say a special thank you to Michaela, who's now laughing and giggling. Thank you so much for organising this. You've spent a lot of time pulling it together. And we all look forward to the Women in Construction Awards. That's in the 22nd of September? Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
All good. Thanks very much. And again, there's going to be some drink and networking taking place. So all of them welcome to meet up with some of you and have a personal chat as well. So thank you, and I hope you've enjoyed the day.
Thank you.